Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's Monday. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to Monday, where sometimes it feels like you're the only one who doesn't know what's going on at work.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, my shy Pisces, it's our turn this week.
Dear Pisces, July is a month where your dreams will paint the sky with vibrant colors and your imagination will soar to new heights. Prepare to embrace the creative muse within you, for this is the time to bring your ideas to life. As the sun casts its warm glow on your sign, you'll find yourself deeply attuned to the world around you. Your intuitive powers will be magnified, allowing you to sense the subtlest of energies and hidden meanings. Trust these inner whispers, dear Pisces, for they will guide you towards the most enchanting paths. This month, the cosmos invites you to dive into your passions and explore the depths of your artistic inclinations. Whether it's painting, writing, or expressing yourself through music, your creativity will flow like a gentle river, carrying you towards a realm of boundless inspiration. In matters of the heart, July holds the promise of profound connections. Love may bloom unexpectedly, carrying the essence of a fairy tale romance. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and open, for the universe has a way of aligning souls in the most magical of ways. While you're immersed in the realm of imagination, remember to ground yourself in reality from time to time. Your dreams are vast and alluring, but the world also requires your presence. Find a balance between the ethereal and the practical, and you'll discover the true power of your creative spirit. As the month progresses, you might face moments of doubt or uncertainty. Remember that you possess an ocean of resilience within you. Trust in your abilities and believe in your unique vision. Even in the face of challenges, you have the strength to navigate through stormy seas and emerge stronger than ever. Embrace the cosmic energy of July, dear Pisces, and let your imagination weave its extraordinary tapestry. The universe eagerly awaits your creative offerings, ready to be dazzled by your unique brilliance.
We are going to have a dope July.
I'm excited to see what happens now.
Pisces!
Ooh. Oh, so you're not two fish, you're just a big whale, huh?
Yeah. Now that we have our weekly reading done, let's get right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew. What am I drinking this morning?
So this morning, you're going to have some black tea, a little bit of agave in there to make it sweet, and some milk.
Actually, that's pretty good. I was
skeptical.
You
were worried, right?
Yeah.
I know you're a little hesitant when it comes to the darker teas that aren't as fruity.
It's herby. But it's actually good,
right?
Yeah. I give that a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I was scared.
Well, for any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for not pushing my family to include my fiancé in Christmas card photos? I, 37 male, am engaged to my fiancé, 31 female, planning on getting married at the end of this year. My family takes a Christmas card photo every year, usually around big events like graduations or parties when everyone is together, which isn't often. Years ago, my mother instituted a not until you're married policy to include significant others in photos and applied that rule to my brother when he was dating and engaged to his now wife. My fiancé has had significant issues with this. Last year, when the family took photos shortly after she and I were engaged, she directed many snide comments to me about how excluded she feels. This year, she flatly refused to drive with me to a family graduation, saying how hurt and excluded she felt by this policy, since we are getting married this year and the card is coming out the year we are getting married. I've tried to explain that this isn't our card. This isn't our right to tell others who can and can't be on their card, and we could always have our own card to start our own tradition. She's made several comments around how surprised she is that I haven't stood up for her to my mother, even telling me that she's discussed the issue with others and they also are surprised that I wouldn't take a stand with my mother on this. She also made a point multiple times to say good, less time to spend on photos with them at the wedding, implying a tit-for-tat response to this policy. I don't really know what to do. Am I the a-hole?
Okay. Gonna start Monday off with some family drama. Let's see if we understand all the facts. We're getting this story through OP's eyes, who happens to be the son in this scenario.
Correct.
He's telling us that his fiance is hurt right now because she wants to be a part of the family Christmas photos going forward. Now, unfortunately, I guess at some point the OP's mother instituted some rule that said people can't be in these photos unless they are married into the family already. So, how old is OP? Does he say?
37.
37. Okay.
And his fiancée is 31.
All right. I thought maybe we were dealing with people in their 20s, because normally that kind of stuff in my mind would be more reserved for people in their 20s. You know, at that point, you're still dating people. No one's for sure if they're ever going to get married to the person they're with. You know, again, I just think that kind of rule is more reserved for someone in their 20s. That's why I thought that's who we were talking about.
Well, let me go ahead and provide you just a little more info with what the poster put in the comments.
Okay.
He actually said, this doesn't stop them from taking photos of all of them. It doesn't stop family photos from happening at all. There's
okay, so she's still allowed to be in the photo with them.
Correct.
She just gets to pick and choose which one she's going to use. Correct. If she's not in it or not.
So essentially what happens is they also have, let's say, based on how he's explained it, let's say all of them take a picture of everybody together.
Oh,
and then they'll take another picture with just...
So they go, you, and you out. The rest of you, we're going to take a picture.
But the thing is, this is only concerning the card photo that goes out.
Sure.
I guess personally for me, if I wasn't allowed to be in any pictures at all, that's different.
I can understand that.
In this case, they're just saying the one picture that they're going to go ahead and send out on a card, that one picture is just going to be the more immediate family.
Can I ask this then? How long have they been together? Does he say in his comments? Because I don't think he talks about that in his story, the initial story anyway. Is this like a couple-year relationship? Are we talking about they've been together for a decade?
So, would you like for me to go ahead and read you one of his other posts regarding his relationship?
Yes.
So let me go ahead and provide a little bit of background. And he actually reached out to a relationship advice forum.
Oh.
And on it, it says, I, 37 male, don't know how to handle my unpredictable fiancé, 31 female, and her threats.
Where is this story turning?
Hi, all.
Hi, y'all.
We have been together for 2 years, living together for 1, engaged for 9 months. Where we had been over the moon for each other while dating, things have slowly become more difficult and unpredictable over the past few months. The smallest things seem to send her into a total meltdown with me in the most unpredictable ways. Things may be fine, but then I'll suggest a beer garden and the night is suddenly ruined as I'm deemed selfish. We may have nice plans for a day out, but my 3 minutes of silence in the car is interpreted as being mad at her, and I'd better pull the car over right now and let her out here so she can walk home. I said I'd be upstairs in 5 minutes, but really came up in 12. I'm told I'd better sleep on the couch because she doesn't want me near her. You get the idea. It's gotten to the point where I've learned to just not communicate, to constantly walk on eggshells and be on guard because I never know what might trigger an event. My friends joke that all couples fight, but these aren't fights. They're just me keeping my guard up at all times to be ready to play defense for the next time things melt down. In a funny way, I'd love to have fights. Love to be able to express when I'm angry or bicker about things and then make up after. That would be a nice change of pace if that makes sense. What has sent things over the edge are some recent threats. After a particularly bad weekend of meltdowns, we sat down and I told her I can't keep living like this. She told me in that moment that she's been thinking a lot about self-harm, how she knows she's not good enough for me, how she recently pulled her car in the garage in an attempt to self-harm, but then thought better of it. I took this very seriously. I offered to help her get help, to stay home with her that week if she felt she was a danger to herself, and I was waved off. Over the following days, any minor inconvenience, what to pick for dinner, for example, also included language of, "This is why I don't want to be alive anymore." Finally, I approached her about it and said I was concerned. She told me to stop taking her so seriously and to stop being dramatic, and that my concern was making her want to harm even more. I consulted several mental health professionals and took their advice. I asked to join the next session with her weekly therapist to raise my concerns, which I did, and then left for them to continue having their session in private. Since then, she has been furious at me, telling me I went overboard, that it's clear I'm trying to make things selfishly all about me, which is why I made a big deal of talking to her therapist, that she doesn't even really think those things and was simply overtired when she said it. I'm really at a loss here. The threats of harm and prospect of losing her that way did a huge number on me emotionally. I want to get past it and move on, but I also feel like I'm taking crazy pills. If anyone has any advice or input on situations like this, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
This turned into a whole different story by the end of that. This was a comment he left, or was this another post he made?
This was another post he made on a relationship forum.
That's completely different from what he made on Am I the A-hole forum. That takes this relationship completely in a different light. The first one's a harmless, hey, am I the A-hole for not supporting my fiancé in a picture? This one's talking about harm and manipulation. She's using it as control. The worst part in his comments is he's walking on eggshells. That's a terrible feeling. If you're not able to speak your mind when something comes up for fear that there's going to be something, in his words, is it explosive?
Meltdowns is what he said.
Okay. If that's the type of relationship that you are in, that's not healthy for anyone. Because see, arguments are healthy. You're allowed to have them in relationships. There's not a relationship that doesn't have arguments in it. Don't do it angry. Walk away from the situation, give yourself some time to cool down, come back. There's nothing that two people can't handle with clear minds. So if she's not allowing him to have those things, and every infraction is the end of the world, because that's what it sounds like. He's saying that if he goes downstairs for 5 minutes and says he'll be back up, she's counting the minutes. And if he's not there when he says it, he gets to sleep on the couch. That's ridiculous. He says things were going great for a little bit. The dating phase of their relationship.
The honeymoon phase.
Normally things do go well at that stage. They moved in. That's a good thing though. I personally believe that you should definitely move in with the person you're thinking about marrying before you marry them. People will tend to show you who they really are when they're not able to shut a door at the end of a night. And I think that's very important. Like with this poster, he's getting to see that through their living together. It kind of sounds like she really does need to go get some help. I understand he's saying she is seeking it. It sounds like she's in the middle of trying to figure it out, is from what I understand. But she's using it as a way to keep him and control him and guilt him. And that's dangerous. I don't like how she's saying, well, you're making it too dramatic.
Too much about you.
That's not what he's trying to do. He loves you. And yeah, this story is very severe. I don't believe that the OP is the a-hole in any of these situations. And I would honestly probably look about getting out of the relationship. That's a dangerous situation. It's not healthy for you. I hope the best for your partner, though. I hope that they do continue to get the help that they desperately need, because it sounds like it.
So just to go ahead and provide a little bit of a timeline, his request for relationship advice was about 4.5 months ago. This AITA issue is about over a week ago. So
wow. Okay. So he decided, it sounds like he's decided to keep going with the relationship, help her. But now this is the next thing that's come up.
Correct.
I wonder what advice he got from people the first time around.
So there are quite a few people who gave advice. And some of the key advice was, after reading your post, do not get married.
Definitely. I 100% agree with that.
She needs to focus on herself and get better. And if it hasn't, you need to be the person to put a full stop to the relationship, because then it's not a healthy relationship.
Okay, so they did give him good advice.
Oh, yes.
But he's pushed past that.
I know.
This was his choice.
Correct. It's difficult because you have, and I've heard of this before. Now, I understand there are a lot of people that have mental issues. Some things develop over time depending on, honestly, the body of a woman and how it goes through its changes. You're going through sometimes hormonal spikes, and there are those cases where some women essentially almost get menopause extremely early, and it can really mess up how they view and feel in the world. Now, I cannot tell you how his fiance is. I can only tell you my experiences, not just as a woman, but as a woman who have dealt with other women who have had these kind of problems.
Sure.
I have seen where some women cannot control it. And I have seen where some women are very manipulative and use it against men.
Well, does this not sound like that type of situation?
It can. Here's where it all comes down to. In the end, every person needs to look at making themselves happy.
Sure.
And if that relationship makes them question their happiness and their sanity, it is not a good relationship.
Very unhealthy.
You should not sacrifice staying in any kind of relationship to try and make the other person happy or because you are afraid for their safety.
Yeah, definitely.
Then all that you're doing is enabling these bad things to happen.
You and the posters are right. You can't keep that type of relationship going because it's unhealthy for everyone involved. I'm sorry for the poster. I hope that he takes the advice he's gotten because in neither of these situations is he the a-hole. It just sounds like a very unfortunate circumstance that he's been put into through no fault of his own. He loves this woman. I'm sure she loves him. And maybe you're right. Maybe there is some mental instability that's gone on, and through whatever biological response she's having, there's stuff that she needs to work on. But I think until those things happen, it's probably better to get some distance away from each other.
So now let's go back to our AITA post. And the consensus on Reddit is he's not the a-hole. In fact, there was a lot of people that said, please look at his other post. This is not a good relationship.
Yeah, it just seems like a very unfortunate circumstance that he got put in.
Well, let's go ahead and move away from this situation, and let's go to our next story. Am I the a-hole for evicting my brother and his family for insulting my husband, causing them to be homeless? I, 34 male, grew up in a very conservative household. My parents and my older brother, Max, 38 male, all hold extreme bigoted views. I'm gay, so that was hard on me growing up. In my 20s, my grandpa died and left me a large chunk of inheritance. It was enough to put a down payment on a house in another county. I decided I no longer wanted to be associated with my family, so I came out to them right before I moved away. They reacted horribly, saying I was going to rot in hell and that I was dead to them. Fine with me. I moved and haven't spoken in years. Since I moved, I landed a great job and met the love of my life, my husband Jonah, 35 male. However, this is where the problem arises. A month ago, I got a message from Max. He apologized for what he said when I came out and said he wanted to reconnect. But he then told me he had lost his job and his family. His wife, Danny, and their 2 kids was about to be evicted. So he asked if they would be able to stay with me for a few months until they got back on their feet. He also said that he would have asked to stay at my parents' place, but they recently moved to an assisted living facility. My first instinct was to say no, but when I told Jonah, he said we should give them a chance because Max could have changed and he doesn't want the kids to be homeless. I finally agreed and messaged Max that I would help him on a few conditions. 1. Under no circumstances is he allowed to bring up politics or mention his political opinions. 2. Under no circumstances is he allowed to disrespect me, my husband, or our home. I told Max that if they break the rules, he and his family would be out. 0 tolerance. He agreed, and they came to stay a few weeks ago. Jonah works from home, so I told him to tell me if Max ever said or did anything that broke the rules. For the first few weeks, everything was fine, but a few days ago, Jonah called me crying while I was at work. He said that he told Max to clean up after his kids because they were making a mess. Max didn't want to, so that started an argument. It culminated in Max screaming that he didn't want a fag telling him what to do. I was furious. When I got home, I told Max he and his family had 2 days to pack and get out. He started arguing with me and said Jonah was lying, but I know Jonah would never lie about something like that. When he saw I was serious, he said I was a terrible person for making his kids homeless, but I said he did this to himself. Danny then stepped in and apologized for Max, which confirms he said it, and begged me to give them another chance. But I said 0 tolerance means 0 tolerance. They didn't start packing until I threatened to call the police. I gave them the address for a homeless shelter and they left. But they kept texting asking to come back, saying their kids are suffering. Even some of my cousins are getting involved, and they are saying it's cruel to punish children for their parents' mistake. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. Lots of people are asking why they can't just live with my cousins. My cousins live all the way across the country, so according to them, it's more practical for Max and his family to live with me. Am I the a-hole?
BS family. What a garbage excuse that is. You care so much, you get them over there, regardless of the distance. I guess we'll go ahead and right into this spicy meatball. You're definitely not the a-hole. It sounds like you found a loving partner. Good for you. Jonah sounds like a gem. Hold on to him. Because he definitely is one of those people that looks at the good first. He said that given all the knowledge that you've given us about your family being bigots, he still, despite knowing that, gave your older brother a shot to come in. Because people do change. They gotta want it, but they can. They are capable. Sounds like your brother's not. You kind of see who someone really is in their angry moments. And you got to see his. He's still that same angry bigot he was when you were growing up. Good for you for having gotten away, spent that money wisely, got yourself a nice home, found an amazing partner. Sounds like you're living a good life. And you did give it a try with your brother. So I commend you for that. You didn't owe him that, but you did try. I feel for those kids. Those are the only people I feel bad for in this story. But ROP is correct. If it mattered that much to OP's brother, then he would have just kept his mouth shut and cleaned up after his kids the way he was asked, and not speak that terrible slur and all over picking up stuff. If it was such a small infraction like that, I wonder if it had been bigger, how much worse those reactions would have gotten.
That's very true.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the kids, but I stand by how I feel with this situation. You're not the a-hole for potentially making your brother homeless, because your brother, and I agree with you in this sentiment, your brother made those kids homeless because he's foul. And it sounds like he's not learned any lessons through life. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Keep up with your loving relationship and foster the things that will grow.
Well, the consensus is that he's not the a-hole. In fact, he actually put down inside the comments section that he's considering letting Danny and the children stay, but Max is not allowed to.
Okay.
And even then, he's still a little iffy because he knows she doesn't fall too far from his values.
Oh, okay. See, sometimes that can happen, though, where one partner is completely different from the other and they won't share that same viewpoint on things. But if he's already saying that he knows that that's kind of how she leans, then what's the point?
The way that he put it is Danny is a lesser extent to Max.
That's being kind, I guess.
Yes.
I wouldn't deal with it.
In my mind, it's just the apple doesn't fall far. And if anything, they can allow the children to stay as long as the children aren't an issue. But it's his prerogative if he does not want those kind of people in his home, because your home is supposed to be your safe space.
Yep. If you can't just respect someone, like, that's where it stops.
Someone who's trying to help you and who you've
probably living there rent free.
And who you've essentially slapped just for them having a choice in their life that doesn't have anything to do with them
just because of who they loved. Silly.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this situation behind. And I wish OP and Jonah the best.
Yes. They sound like a dope couple.
Yes, they do. And it sounds like they have all their ducks in a row.
Yeah, keep living a great life.
And let's go on to our next story. Am I the a-hole for trying to instill discipline in my partner's kids? Partner and I have been together for 3 years. Partner has 2 daughters, 16 and 14, from a previous marriage. I feel that both daughters are very spoiled, do not understand the meaning of respect/integrity, and have a disorderly lifestyle. Partner is afraid to correct them, and their behavior is causing a lot of grief in the household. I grew up in a strict family, and my partner has repeatedly asked me to instill a sense of order and discipline in these youngsters. I refused at first because of the ramifications of how this would make my partner feel, but enough is enough. I instituted the following rules. 1. Family dinner each night. 2. No phones at the dinner table. 3. Homework needs to be done before any fun activities. 4. Established and enforced bedtimes. 5. No cake, candy, sweets, or soda permitted in the house. 6. Require meal tracking to help them lose weight. Both are obese. 7. Require participation in a physical activity. Partner now thinks these rules are draconian and feels that I am an a-hole. I told my partner that they wanted me to instill discipline, so I am just doing what they said I should. Am I the a-hole?
'Tis peak, my lord. Like, this story, no one's going to get that reference, by the way. But if you do, let me know. So let's see if we have everything set for this journey. OP says he comes from a strict household. That's how he grew up. He has been with his current partner. I'm not sure if they're married or not.
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So he would have bumped into them, and the girls being 16 and 14, he would have met them at 11 and 13. So they're getting started into their teenhood. There's not a whole lot you can tell kids when you bump into them at that age without building a rapport first. So it sounds like it's not only a function of the mother not having their respect, it's also the stepfather in this situation not having respect. If you're having to institute, so I was with a couple of those rules, right? You try to give kids a good understanding of what sleep is Right? Having a bedtime is important. What I'm thinking is maybe like rule 1 through 4, if I remember it correctly, I was okay with. It was all up until we started talking about food counting and all of those things, right? That's where you start getting right off the rail in this story, where I'm going, okay, I understand getting homework done before other things, right? Like those things are good habits to get into and you instill in your kids. But then we start getting into again, he says no sugar of any kind, period.
No candy.
No cake.
Cakes.
My
sweets,
guy.
Or
No-
sodas.
No cake? Keep the other things. When you got a problem with cake. And then again, he's counting the food they eat because does he call them morbidly obese?
He just says both are obese.
Okay. He says it here though, that the mother in this situation has asked him to help with these things. So the problem with this story, after all of the crazy amount of rules, is he says he instituted these rules. So when you say that, I'm guessing it means that he didn't communicate with his wife that these are the rules. So they never had a back and forth of what's acceptable. There are 2 parents in the house. They both have to agree on what the rules are going forward. So I can understand why she would call him the a-hole in this situation, because you are the a-hole in this situation. I understand you're trying to be a good dad, and I understand you already painted it for us where you've come from. So it's hard to get out of some of those things, especially when you've been shown one way. It's hard to not see the world through that one lens.
And if you feel like you've been successful, then
Exactly.
you feel like it's successful
It
for
worked for me,
everyone.
it'll work for them. But that's not how life works. There's no one size fits all situation to anything. So you definitely are the a-hole. There are all different types of ways to parent. Please stop doing the food tracking stuff, because you're going to start making very unhealthy associations with food in those kids. Because if you start getting them into that this early, you're talking about a whole other problem later on. There's better ways to get kids healthy and active than what he's trying to institute.
Well, the consensus was split between he is the a-hole and everyone sucks here.
Okay.
So the verdict is split like this.
So are they saying like the kids suck too? Or are we just talking about the mom?
parents.
Okay. I'm like, wait a second.
So the reason why everyone sucks here is obviously the mother reached out to him,
Yeah.
but didn't provide him any guidelines. At the same time, he sucks because he never actually said, hey, these are the rules I'm thinking about starting.
Definitely something they should have talked about.
Correct. So you brought up that good point, same as other commenters did. Now, let's go ahead and delve into that he is the a-hole. First, personally, you lost me at rule 5, 6, and 7. Rules 1 through 4 were just fine, as you've said. However, a lot of individuals are saying, don't do the tracking. As you've said, it's not healthy. It's definitely not a good frame of mind. And it shouldn't be a rule to exercise. You should make it a family event.
Yeah, go do stuff together.
Go out.
Go hike.
Make sure that things happen as a family.
Yep.
And then good things will happen. Showing, rather than saying that you can't have something in the house, because in all actuality, these are 16 and 14-year-olds. The people who are bringing the food in the house are the parents.
Yep.
So the fact that he's instating that they can't have that in the house kind of goes as a hit against the mother, doesn't it?
That's interesting. You're right. I didn't think about it through that lens. Interesting.
And if you haven't talked to her about it,
I could see where she would be like, hold on. You're not taking my sugar away.
in the end, it falls to 1, you're the a-hole for making rules that are so overbearing. And then 2, you shouldn't force anybody to lose weight. It needs to be their choice to do it, even if they're younger.
Yep.
Just having good choices in your home, and this should be something that he should talk about with his partner. That in itself should have happened first and foremost.
Yep. Can't make those unhealthy associations with food, because like we pointed out, those things will only snowball later. And yes, make things events with your kids. We do it.
Oh, yes. It's very fun. Well, let's go ahead and leave this growing family behind us and see what's happening when it comes to a delivery driver. For our next story, am I the a-hole for reporting a delivery driver who I thought was lying to get out of doing more work? Throwaway account because I don't want this linked to my main. So today for lunch, I decided to order from a Mexican restaurant through one of those food delivery services. I've had a bad experience or two where my order was missing some items, but the drivers would always be gone before I realized and could catch them to fix the issue. I'd always have to report it through the app's support chat, which is such a pain to use because they obviously outsource their representatives, and it's frustrating trying to communicate with them. I usually give up after a few messages back and forth. When my driver arrived, I told her to stay so I could check the bag and make sure everything was there. I noticed she kind of raised her eyebrow for a moment, but otherwise she stood quietly and waited. Sure enough, a couple things were missing. I politely said she needed to return to the restaurant and get my missing items. In a very neutral, rehearsed-sounding tone, she said that it's against company policy to do that and I should contact support through the app. I explained that I preferred not to deal with support. She said they're the only ones who can help and she's really not supposed to go back to the restaurant. I was a bit annoyed at this point, so I asked if the company policy was on making sure orders were correct. She said that restaurants close the bags for the drivers and they're not meant to open them or the containers inside. Something about food safety violations and not being trained. After a moment, she apologized for the trouble and left. To me, this honestly just sounds like a bunch of BS excuses to get out of doing her whole job. If they can't go back to the restaurant, how are we customers supposed to get their food/money back? If they can't open bags to check the orders, how do they even know they're delivering the right food? It makes no sense to me. So on the page where I rate my driver and can leave feedback, I made a note of my situation and explained why I thought she was in the wrong. I then left 1 star and revoked my tip. A bit later, I was talking to my sister over the phone, who I thought would enjoy the story because she works for a different but similar delivery company. My sister said, "Did you actually think she was gonna go back to the restaurant?" I laughed, thinking she was taking a dig at a competing company's drivers. But she just said, "I'm not joking. You literally reported her for following the rules." At first, I thought my sister had misunderstood a part of the story or something, so I kind of brushed it off. But now, based on her reaction and what both her and the driver said, I'm wondering if they're right. Am I the a-hole for reporting her and taking my tip back because I thought she was lying?
Ooh, this one's a bad story. Holy entitlement, Batman. This is terrible. So, you're definitely the a-hole. You, in this story, paint out a very entitled, impatient, and callous human. That's who you are. Drivers have a very thankless job. Those people normally have to grind really hard to make anything. She knew the policies. She told you about them. When you leave bad reviews on someone who doesn't deserve it, they lose their job. I can't believe you're sharing this story on the internet. You're a foul human. You took the tip away. You are definitely the a-hole.
Well, the consensus is that she is the a-hole. In fact, let me go ahead and read a commenter and see what you think about this. Oh my, is the world really this small? This could be a total coincidence, and I guess I have no real way to confirm either way, but I had a very similar conversation with a customer today over a missing burrito and side of cheese dip. Even if you're not the person I talked to, I'm off the clock now, so I have some more words for you and people like you. First off, it's so annoying when people say, "Oh, hold on a second, just want to make sure it's all here." Right. Then I know I might be about to waste time having this exact conversation. Yes, it's scripted because it happens all the time. And it's easier to be prepared. Second off, I cannot return to the restaurant. If I don't mark your order as delivered in a given amount of time, I start getting calls from dispatch. If I mark your order as delivered, then go back to the restaurant, I've lost your order info because the system thinks I don't need it anymore. And usually I have another order waiting to be sent to me after yours, so I have to move on to that one. Third off, stop and think about it. Do you want a person you don't know opening your food containers with their hands that have been touching a steering wheel, dozens of door handles and doorbells, cash tips from questionable places, and that haven't been washed all day because they've been in a car? It's nasty and not sanitary. I try to verify with restaurants, but most of the time, they're practically shoving me out the door. So sorry. Fourth off, I spend literally all day, delivering food to people just to make money. With one of my companies, I have no choice but to deliver orders I'm given so I can't be lazy. With the rest, I still can't be lazy because if I am, that means less money. You know nothing about this industry. I couldn't say this before, but I could say it now. You're the a-hole.
Good stuff.
It is, unfortunately, a sad fact that A lot of people truly don't have the capacity for empathy or compassion when it comes to people who work really hard jobs. They only see that they get it, and for them, they think, well, it must be easy. All you're doing is grabbing it and dropping it off. But they deal with a lot. Well, I really wish good luck to our delivery driver. I know that they deal with quite a lot and truly empathize with the struggles that they go through.
Try some kindness.
And let's go ahead and go to our last story of the day. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend her home decor is the reason I won't host a work gathering at her place?
Let me in on the ride.
I've, male 32, been with my girlfriend, female 29, for over a year now. She's smart, funny, a bit quirky, and has a serious job with a good salary. We have a great time together and generally get along very well. The only thing is her choice of home decor is bizarre, to put it frankly, and not something you think a normal grown adult would be into. Her apartment is definitely a reflection of herself and interests, not in the best way though. My girlfriend has a wall dedicated to animation in one room of her apartment, like Futurama pieces and etchings of some weird triangle guy. Then there's the wall of framed preserved insects in another room, but not insects like butterflies or moths. Instead, she displays tarantulas, beetles, and large stick insects. Her bathroom has a subtle theme of the ocean, pretty common, but instead of starfish or shells, she has a little anglerfish nightlight, a small vampiric squid painting, and then a framed diagram of what apparently is a goblin shark right by the toilet. I would say a majority of her home decor and furnishings are okay. The apartment itself is very modern and sleek. It's just the random decor and juvenile-ish themes of cartoons, insects, and bizarre ocean creatures is off-putting. This is where I might be the a-hole. I avoid bringing people over to her place, especially people from my job, because of how juvenile it looks. Everyone's impressed when they see the high-rise, but that quickly fades once you enter. The one time I brought a work colleague over, they ended up telling me after that they found her insect wall terrifying. I work in finance, and appearances and first impressions are important. My office will hold casual gatherings where we get together for a few drinks, good food, and we rotate hosts. And this time, it's my turn. The problem is my place is under some construction and not an ideal place to be right now. So I've been staying with my girlfriend. My girlfriend suggested that we host my colleagues here since she has the space and thinks it'll be fun. I told her I planned on skipping my rotation and seeing if the next person would be okay with hosting early. She kept pressing on why I didn't want them over here. So I finally said it's because her home decor is strange and not something a grown woman would have, and also that her insect wall horrified the one colleague that did come over. My girlfriend got mad and said at the end of the day, it's not my space and these things bring her joy. She also said that she is indeed an adult woman, which is exactly why her apartment is decorated in such a manner. I love my girlfriend. I do. And it's okay to have different interests, but does an adult really need to decorate with them besides a few things here and there? I mean, my own mother asked if my girlfriend was autistic after she saw the entire apartment for the first time. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend her home decor is the reason I won't host a work gathering at her place?
This is the spiciest of meatballs today. Your girlfriend, because this is a girlfriend at this point still.
Correct.
They've been dating for a little while. And they're in their 30s, correct?
Yes, he's 32, she's 29.
Close-minded in your 30s. Or ever. I don't even care what age you are, honestly. You're just very close-minded. Look at the background. That's no different than the rest of our home.
Probably a little more nerdier.
And I love it.
If I had the choice, I would make it more.
Because the truth is, I haven't been into all this stuff. I just got introduced to it through Voyse throughout our life together. And I think it's fantastic. And what you were describing was totally dope. I may not be into insects, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy looking at them in a display case. But that's why I'm interested in why it bothers you that she has those interests and she likes displaying them. She said it. It makes her happy. Well, at the end of the day, that should have been where you stopped. What I hope for is that she sees this in you and sees this as an immediate red flag, because if you guys choose to get married at some point, it sounds like she's going to have to conform to what you want. I'd love to see this house. That bathroom, I'm all down for anything aquatic.
The anglerfish nightlight? I want one now. I'm seriously going to look this up.
She sounds fantastic.
Although I must say, if I was going into that bathroom in the dark and I saw a goblin shark right next to it,
That's fantastic.
I'd be so scared, but only because it's in the dark. And during the day, I'd be just fine. I'd still dig it if I saw it in someone's bathroom.
Well, it sounds really cool. You sound like a dunce. Obviously, you're definitely 100% the a-hole.
So, the consensus, definitely resoundingly the a-hole. In fact, a lot of people said it's really rude that you would even put in here that your mother thought that she was artistic simply for her decor styles.
I didn't even cover that. That's terrible. That they've had those type of conversations behind her back like that.
I know he put in his comments to people that he finds her very charming and that he's more straight-laced. It's just who he is, but for commenters...
No, he's judgmental. No. He's judgmental. Don't hide it behind I'm straight-laced and all that. No, you're just a very judgmental person.
I work in finance. Listeners, I love numbers. They are puzzles to me that I just enjoy figuring it out. But I love all the nerdy things that life has to give me. Nerdy in space, geeky in all forms. I enjoy Star Wars and I love Mario and I play video games. My work is serious, but is not a reflection of who I am. And 100%. It sounds like this poster has made his work to be a reflection on his life.
Well, he also says he's in finance too. So
he sounds so dull in some of his comments where he tells people that he's very career oriented.
You can be that and still have a personality.
You can also be that and not judge how other people do stuff, especially the person that you say that you love.
She should definitely look at that and pause, because I wonder how they're going to be able to, and they might be able to work through it.
Definitely.
They're still young. They can still work through things and understand that this is what she likes. And I'm hoping he got perspective from people that taught him to stop looking at her interests with such judgmental frames.
I think for me, one of the things that I didn't enjoy seeing him put down was he would consider having her host as long as she put down her insect wall. And here's something that I wasn't aware of, and that commenters actually made me aware of. When you cannot move those insects very often, it actually can ruin them, can cause their wings to fall off. They're very, very fragile. And for her to take them down and put them up, that was one of her arguments. I don't want to ruin my precious insects. I don't like insects. But I do think that the occasional beetle and their wings are very pretty. The tarantulan legs. Whew. But I wouldn't mind seeing it on someone else's walls as a museum for me. I think it's a good talking point, and he's not using it as a way for people to talk and see how unique the world is. He's seeing it as it's not this box, and because it doesn't fit in this box, it's not right.
That autistic comment that him and his mother shared was probably an indicator of how they really talk about her more often than not. So I would be very careful of all of that.
If anything, I think it's his choice if he doesn't want her to host. He didn't have to be rude and put down who she is as a person, because a person's home and how they decorate it is a reflection of who they are,
Sure.
Whether they're straight-laced or whether they're a little quirky.
And you're allowed to be both of those things or anything in between, but what you're not allowed to do is be a complete douchebag to your partner about it.
I definitely agree with that.
Oh, that's the last story.
That is the last story.
Right. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to hear what quirky decor you have in your home.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.